506 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in, along with Matt Murphy, Chris Hand, Dan Mandis here live at Scoreboard in Mount Juliet.
Yes, sir!
Cedar Creek Marina. We are here till 8 o'clock. Brian Wilson is on his way here. I got to tell you, what a great facility this is. They've got fires in the middle of the room.
They're in pits.
They're for warmth. They're for warmth.
Right, sure.
And this is a great location. And we still have a couple of rooms, a couple of tables that are open. So come on out. It is, again, 5:06, and we're going till 8 o'clock.
How about these guys that got here early, got tables early, came up, said hello? I mean, the SuperTalk 99.7 WTN listening audience never ceases to amaze me. They're here. They're ready to go. There will be more coming along. I am certain that as jobs get done and computers get closed, laptops get closed, folks will come on out. And we invite you to come. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of heaters. We're on the water. You know, we're on the water right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're on the water. And, again, it's a great facility. 5 minutes from the house for me. Finally, I don't have to drive, an hour to one of our events. I had to put my foot down.
Right,
it was time.
That narrows it down for me because I've been trying to figure out where you live in Mount Juliet for a while now. So it's 5-minute radius at this location. So that's good. That's good for me.
Yeah, you're still gonna try to stop.
Hey, later on, Dan Mandis, Chris Hand does a drum solo. It's my understanding.
I tried to play the drums. There's a drum set behind us, folks, and there's no bass drum. There's no cymbals. So my drum solo was not much to be heard.
He crushed it. It was awesome.
Listen, for a guy that had just a couple of whatever those things are, I mean, I sounded great. Anyway, what are we talking about? As Brian is on his way here, you guys want to talk a little bit more about Christmas time. And I wanted to talk about, by the way, for folks that are listening, is our camera on, guys? Kirby, are we doing the camera? So you can see,
hey folks,
the Chris Hand Christmas tree that he brought in.
Huge.
It's a little bit hard to see us behind the Christmas tree.
It is. It is so absolutely massive.
Chris and I are very regretful, and we talked about this earlier, that we did not plan properly because when I had to bring the big trailer in for the tree, we didn't video it.
No, we did not.
It's regretful that we did not do that.
We didn't have enough hands. We were busy carrying tree.
You're making all the old man grunt noises trying to carry really, really heavy things.
Yeah, they had to take down some of this, like the siding and the
that's
the
exactly
wintertime siding to get it on in here. But it's here.
That's exactly what happened.
It's here. It's huge and it's here.
Promises made, promises kept.
I say that a lot when I go to events. I'm huge and I'm here.
That's exactly right. All right, now let's talk about Christmas real quick, because I think this is one of those, 2023, I think by all accounts, 2023, if you could come up with one word to describe 2023, my word is going to be 2023 sucked.
It's apropos.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because, I mean,
was that the word you were going to use?
The first word that came to my brain, I'm just being honest, was horrific.
Okay. And I threw down sucked.
Yeah, horrific,
there
sucked.
You go. All right, Chris, what do you got?
I would go with weird.
Okay.
I feel like every news story that popped up, my reaction was weird. Oh, there's a Chinese spy balloon flying over the country. Weird. That's weird.
Hey, Chinese biolabs all across America. That was a little weird as well.
Yeah, that we have a president of the United States of America that doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground. That's kind of weird.
Yeah,
it's odd.
Yeah.
The former president and all the court cases. Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Political persecution going on ad nauseum, and no one in the mainstream media really says anything about it. Weird. I would agree. Weird. Horrific. Sucks.
I like to, I don't know about you guys, how much do you talk about politics off of the radio? Because in my house, and I documented this, during the morning show, where Amy and I will talk to Amy about politics because I just can't get away from it, of course, is what I do. And I call my Roomba Joe. I call him the Roomba president because him trying to get off of stage, it is just, he has no idea where the heck he's going. It is weird. It is, horrific is another word. And, one of the things that I've talked about on the morning show is it's it's not funny anymore. I mean, this is a guy, well, Donald Trump said it the other day. I was actually thrilled because Donald Trump and I agreed on a lot of things, but we agreed on the fact that it's not funny because Joe Biden is sort of the leader of the free world.
I choose to be the most optimistic pessimist on the planet Earth, right? Because I am naturally a pessimist, and I naturally think we're doomed. This is all going to hell in a handbasket, and it's all bad. But I desperately cling to optimism. And I believe, in a serious way, I believe that the country is greater than what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. The people of the United States of America are greater, and we are better, and we can overcome what's happening in the White House and what's happening in Washington. I have to choose to believe that. Otherwise, I'm going to work at Home Depot, and I'm just getting away from it, because we immerse ourselves. And I think these folks in the listening audience, sitting out there listening to us now, and those on radio listening to us, they have to do that too, because they're immersed in it as well. But we have to believe in our optimistic side that there are greater days ahead, and 2024 is a greater year than we've ever seen in this country.
You know what's bizarre, though? It does seem like there's two realities. There is the reality of the political left, the progressives, and the reality that they simply refuse to acknowledge, yet the rest of us know exactly what's going on. And you can see it in the polling. So as we leave 2023 and head into 2024, the thing that gives me hope is that people seem to understand what's going on, even if the left and a lot of the folks in the media refuse to acknowledge it. And I think that, at least for me, one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is what gives you hope in these times where, these are troubled times. And for me, it's when you look at the polling and you talk to the folks like the people that we're talking to here tonight, everybody understands what's happening, and it gives me hope because we all kind of get it.
Yeah, and I think what you can tell people a certain thing, but they have to experience it. And one of the benefits of the Joe Biden economy is that even liberals are experiencing it real time, how bad it is. Mm-hmm. And there's no denying that when you can't make rent, when your grocery bill is exorbitant. And just a few months ago, it was a lot more affordable to just be an American.
Yeah, they can. I mean, toward Chris's point, the political left can lie about a lot. And the average American, if they're not paying attention as much as SuperTalk listeners pay attention, they might get snowed under. So, if you're not on the border or not paying attention, they maybe can lie about the border. Perhaps they can lie about Ukraine. They can lie about some other things. They cannot lie about people's pocketbooks. And it's one of the reasons that they're dropping this Bidenomics garbage, because they realize that as much as we preach it and say it, and as much as the mainstream media regurgitates it, the American people ain't buying it, because we know, we get it. Well, and they're like, why don't the people see that the economy's bouncing back? Because it's not bouncing back.
Well, and the funniest thing is for a couple months now, they've been saying, all we have to do is explain it to them. We need to do a better job of explaining it. And they've spent 2 months saying, if only we can get our messaging right, people will understand. Well, we're waiting. We're waiting.
Can I, I'm going to ask these folks. I'm asking the group here at Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina real quick. All right, so by a show of hands, who felt better from an economic perspective, your individual households, who felt better from an economic perspective in, let's say, 2019 than you do today? Who feels better today than you did in So I got about half the audience said I'm better in 2019. I got nobody that says they're better today. And that's just a little sample size here at Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina, right? I mean, people know. They get it.
Who wants mean tweets and cheap gas for Christmas?
Yeah! Mean tweets, cheap gas. I do.
I do too.
Well, the funny thing, though, is that, and I was talking about this on the morning show a couple of days ago, where the shaming of Trump supporters, where Kelsey Grammer, this was a whole conversation with Kelsey Grammer, where he was giving a BBC interview, and they asked him about his Trump support, and he said, I am still a Trump supporter, and he said, I'm going to leave it at that. And then the interviewer, he was kind of, and I didn't hear the tone in his voice because I read it, but he was basically seemed to be a little condescending to Kelsey Grammer. And my thought was, and I did a whole monologue on it, which was, who the hell are they to condescend to Donald Trump supporters when you look at what Joe Biden has done. Donald Trump supporters have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of, and you can throw all the things out there you want. You can throw out the Muslim ban, which is a bunch of BS. You can throw out, Trump's a Nazi in January 6th. Look how many people Joe Biden has impacted negatively.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And I listened. I actually listened because I wanted to get the tone of the interviewer with that Kelsey Grammer piece. And it more nefariously, in my opinion, I don't think the interviewer was doing anything wrong. I just think the interviewer didn't want to go to a place that Kelsey Grammer was uncomfortable going. And Kelsey Grammer seemed uncomfortable. He said, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter, but I'll leave it at that. And then turns out, in order for him, when he re-engaged Frazier, and Hollywood has basically told him, leave the politics alone. If you want to do this, if you want to re-engage Frazier, if you want us to support this, then you have to leave politics alone. So he's been instructed by these Hollywood elitists not to talk about his personal political beliefs. Now, anyone who's a leftist who wants to, it's carte blanche. You can do anything you want. But if you're a Trump supporter, you're a pariah, and you need to hide it. And it's been that way in Hollywood for years, though.
Well, but what's interesting? You're right. But look what happened to Susan Sarandon. I mean, you saw where she was in New York, and she's out there, and she's saying a whole bunch of anti-Semitic stuff, and she had to come back out. She had to apologize. She got dropped by her agents. Now, even after she apologized, she got dropped by her production company. So you're right, but I do wonder, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, which is when you look at everything that's going on, are things changing in America where it's, one, not so bad to be a Trump supporter, and number two, when you look at all of the anti-Semitic stuff that's going on, I think in the testimony from the presidents of MIT and Harvard and UPenn,
Penn.
You look at that and how people were horrified at that testimony, and I think that the American people, I think they're on to, and have been for a long time, it's not just Trump supporters. It's the independents, it's the more moderates that are realizing what's going on in Hollywood, what's going on in the media as well. And Susan Sarandon, for one, is paying the price.
And then you see a guy who's semi-independent, probably leans more conservative, like Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports, who says, I'm not going to hire anybody from Harvard and MIT and Penn until those presidents are replaced. So I think the tide is turning, and I think there's too many competing influences under the liberal umbrella.
Well, I think it was said years and years ago that, I believe it was William F. Buckley, and I mangle the quote every time I try it, who said that liberals are groups of people who sit around in their little studies and they talk amongst themselves and talk about how tolerant they are of other people's viewpoints, and then they go out into the real world and they're shocked and amazed that there are any. Right? Yeah. So I think Susan Sarandon has spoken this type of language plenty in her little bubble. She was shocked and amazed the reaction to it when she spoke it publicly. I think the presidents of Harvard and Penn and whatnot, they believe these things privately, and when they say them publicly, they're shocked that people are shocked by them because they don't experience the real world like we do on a daily basis.
No, you're absolutely right. And so now the question is, will that have an impact long-term on a couple of things? One, Susan Sarandon's long-term career, which I really don't care about. But number two, MIT, UPenn, Harvard, and these other colleges where all of this is going on, and the graduates of those colleges, because Portnoy is not the only one to say that they'll never hire anyone from those colleges again. There's a lot of people that are saying that. It is 5:20 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Got to take a break. Dan Mandis here, along with Chris Hand, and also Matt Murphy, live at Scoreboard in Mount Juliet.
And the Grinch. The Grinch is here, Dan. The Grinch.
Brian's already here?
No, not Brian. The Grinch.
Kidding, Brian. I'm kidding. Wow, the Grinch is here. Very good. And we're here till 8 o'clock. Scoreboard in Mount Juliet, Cedar Creek Marina. Come on out. Having a great time. We've got some tables left. We'll return next on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Learning more about the shooter at UNLV yesterday, sex crimes in Tennessee, and the White House responding to missile attacks in the Red Sea. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour, 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Mr. Morey. It is 5:25, SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, live from Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina. Come on!
It's a raucous
Look,
crowd.
I got the Grinch to applaud. The Grinch is in the house, and it is an incredibly frightening outfit. Have you guys been close to that? If you see the Grinch, go up to the Grinch and look him in the eyes, and you'll pee a little. I mean, you will.
Did you hear about the woman that actually had a thing for the Grinch?
I did not.
There was actually a story.
What is her name? Amy. That's good. That's good. Zing. That's
For those that don't know,
one
my
for Murphy.
Wife's name is Amy.
One for
No,
Murphy.
there was actually a woman that had a thing for the Grinch.
Okay.
And then she had to go to psychotherapy and the whole thing. She did.
I mean, legit thing.
That's
this
just-
is like
this is
these
a
people that
legit
like
thing.
that eat Kleenex and
Yeah,
like the weird folks.
kind of like the weird Furbies, that are into like the Furby
Not
kind of
Pamela
stuff.
Furby.
Not
furries,
Pamela Furby.
furries.
No.
Furries. You're thinking of furries.
Yeah,
Yes.
furries.
Thank you, Chris.
Furries.
Not
You know,
furries.
when I lived in Pittsburgh, there was a big furry convention every year. And,
Yeah?
I thought about going in because we thought it would be fun to look at the guys in all the costumes. And we were with my daughter, who was 3 at the time. And the security guard stopped us and goes, "I don't think you want to do it."
Good for him.
I went,
Good for him.
I went, "Appreciate it, man."
Yeah,
and we,
thank you.
we turned right around and left.
Oh, that's good. So, no, we're having a good time. We've got the Grinches here. We've got mostly full tables, which is pretty cool. A lot of you come on out to see us at Cedar Creek Marina. We'd love to see you. We're at Scoreboards. It's easy to find. Just type in Cedar Creek Marina or Scoreboard in your GPS, and it'll take you right here.
The thing I like about this place is there's a lot of parking.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of parking, and it's right on the water, and we've got a couple of different Christmas trees here, as a matter of fact, and it's actually warm enough. I was a little worried about the cold, but it feels really good. Brian Wilson, by the way, is on his way. We were talking earlier about 2023 heading into 2024 and kind of our feelings as we leave 2023 behind. One of the things that I think is an interesting conversation is last night's debate. You had Chris Christie, you had Nikki Haley, you had
Big
Ron
Boy,
DeSantis.
War Barbie.
War Barbie.
War Barbie.
Yeah, I call her War Barbie.
You call her War Barbie.
That's
okay.
what she is.
I love it.
She's War
I
Barbie.
love it.
Boeing Barbie, perhaps.
Right, Boeing Barbie.
That's hilarious.
Is it?
Ramalama Ding Dong and lifts.
Are people? Well, it's funny. I just
That's
saw.
not for. I mean, because you know what I want. It
just
was
saw-
entertaining. Can I? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say. I just saw an article that said that Vivek Ramaswamy is finished after last night's debate.
Oh, I don't think.
Why
so.
do they think that?
I don't think so.
Can I tell you why? Because they want him to be finished.
Yeah, right.
They want him to be finished. But do you think people are really paying attention? Ask folks. Did you pay attention to the
By
debate
show of
last
hands.
night? Show of
By
hands.
show of hands, who watched it? See, nobody. And well, all right, 1, 2, all right, a couple.
anybody watch
a
the
few.
debate last night?
We got a smattering. We got 3. All right, but believe it or not, if you have YouTube TV, News Nation on there. So, I mean, I was glad of that. I didn't know that until last night. It was good to see that Chris Cuomo is still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still alive, and boy, oh boy, he's
he's-
going. He's so. No, it was funny. You watched, right?
did,
You
I
watched.
did.
His
I love
political career is not alive.
No, but Cuomo. No, Chris Cuomo was there. He was in it. He was engaged. He's like, I've got a national debate. I mean, he was sent out to the pasture because of his stupid defense of his brother and all those shenanigans. And now he's so excited because he's on News Nation. We're doing it right, guys. We're doing it right. And look, maybe they are. Maybe they're just hiring the wrong people. But
The biggest loser in last night's debate was News Nation, because when they signed the contract probably a year ago, I wonder what the price was that they paid for that, and then Donald Trump doesn't show up.
yeah, surely Trump will come. It's
Yeah.
the 4th debate, right?
Yep.
And you know what?
They're starting to pare down.
And I don't know if Trump graces the stage. I don't think he does. I mean,
Why,
if you're
let me ask you this question. Why would he?
He has more to lose than gain if he does any of that.
no, I mean, my analysis was he was the winner last night.
Yeah, well, that's what I said too.
Right.
In other words, there's no reason for him to show up because there's nothing to gain. And if something bad happens and he says the wrong thing or somebody attacks him, then he has a lot to lose. So it makes all the sense in the world for him to say, you know what, I'm going to sit this out. I'm going to go talk to Sean Hannity and have a conversation with Hannity and troll all the people on the left with that comment about being, a dictator on day one.
Well, I have more to say about this, Dan, but it's 5:30.
It is, and we've got to take a break. Broadcasting live from Scoreboard in Mount Juliet, Cedar Creek Marina. We are here till 8 o'clock. Brian Wilson is on his way. Dan Mandis here along with Chris Hand, Matt Murphy
Hitting
as
the break
well.
on time.
Hitting the break on
look at
time.
that.
Thank you, man.
Well, listen, we're on Brian's show. We cannot screw this up, even though I called him the Grinch
true.
earlier. So we'll move on from there. Come on out, though. We have a couple of more tables available. Having a great time. We'll return next on Super Talk 89.7 WTN.
30 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 52 degrees in Nashville this evening. Got a full weather forecast. Latest traffic report headed your way 5 minutes. Las Vegas police say the shooter who killed 3 faculty members at UNLV yesterday also sent 22 letters in the mail, likely containing an unknown white powder. Sheriff Kevin McMahill with the Las Vegas Metro Police issuing this morning.
If anybody in the education world receives a letter with a no return address that is taped, we ask you to proceed with caution and contact your local authorities.
Officials also now know the shooter was struggling financially. They found an eviction notice taped to the front door of his apartment. Sex crimes in Tennessee. Mackenzie Lee Staggs and Dakota Lee Garrett facing multiple child sex charges, including aggravated rape of a child. This is in Overton County. 8 total indictments, 6 for Staggs, 2 for Garrett. Both have been booked into the Overton County Jail. Over to the nation's capital, the White House says they're stepping up their response to recent missile and drone attacks in the Red Sea launched by Houthi militants in Yemen. The group is backed by Iran, which the U.S. says supplies the weapons. Karen Travers.
The White House announced Thursday that the Departments of State and Defense will lead a joint effort to strengthen and expand a 39-member maritime task force, a response to recent missile and drone attacks by Houthis in the Red Sea. National Security spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. is encouraging, quote, like-minded nations to join this effort.
Our focus at this time is ensuring that there are sufficient military assets in place to deter these Houthi threats to maritime trade in the Red Sea and in the surrounding waters, to the global economy writ large.
Kirby called this an international problem that demands an international solution.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I wanted to touch on the history of Tethered and kind of how it came about.
There was a handful of us that were already using similar equipment. At the time, however, you couldn't just go to the store and buy saddle equipment. It just didn't exist. And selfishly, we just were making gear that nobody else would make for us and that we wanted ourselves. And our goal was just to make enough to break even. Fortunately for everybody involved, it took off. It's got an appeal. People really liked it.
When you think of a saddle, that's what I think of. That's the first name that I think of when I hear about a saddle.
For me, the reason I got into it was I'm hunting public land, and most of the time I'm going pretty deep. Being lightweight and mobile was huge. I walk in with a pack and my bow. That's it. The more I did it, I was like, man, there's so many features here that are helping me improve as a hunter, where I can take different shot angles and stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I feel safe with this rope all the time.
Yeah.
From the ground up, I'm hooked in. If I fall off this thing, I'm just going to swing a little bit. And I think the learning curve is small. It's just about getting comfortable with your equipment. It's the biggest thing. And for me, it's repetition and then fine-tuning that to meet my needs. And that's the cool thing. What I like and what might meet my needs might be a little different from you. And even though we're doing the same thing, you can tweak it to meet your needs. And I really like that aspect about it.
But we've done a really good job of just innovating and creating products that don't exist. You're seeing the growth of the sport, you're seeing the innovation, and you're seeing all of these cool things that we make, and it's because we actually use it.
538 SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. We are live from Scoreboard in Mount Juliet here in the Cedar Creek Marina. Apparently the alcohol has yet to kick in, Chris Hand.
It's going to be kicking in soon. Matt Murphy is by the bar.
They're eating. They're eating right now. Hey, thank you. Will you take those to what was your name? I can't hear you. Tell them. I can't remember your name. Our lovely server is headed your guys away.
Oh, look at that.
She's got a soda pop for Chris Hand, and she's got a sweet tea, air quotes, for Dan Mandis. And she gave me a little something to.
Wow, I can say this,
that's
right?
a really sweet.
I am allowed to say that this lovely woman brought me a sangria.
No, sweet tea, Dan. Extra sweet. Extra sweet.
That too.
Hold on before you go anywhere, because you're with Scoreboard. What's your name?
Tanika.
Tanika. That's why I couldn't remember. It's a very unique name. How long have you been at Scoreboard? Do you own the place or what?
Couple of months now.
Couple of months. Are you having fun? You don't want? No, she's going to pee herself. Okay, go ahead. Just get out of here. You can tell. No, you can tell. No, you guys have been doing this long enough.
That's the effect Matt Murphy has on women.
Their eyes get really wide and they run.
All right,
that's exactly right.
Trust me, I can relate. So we are here till 8 o'clock. We have a great crowd so far. It is nice. It is warm. We've got a couple of tables, and Brian Wilson is on his way. Yes, even the Grinch is here. Now, Chris, we sent Matt out into the audience because we're going to do the airing of the grievances with the Joe Biden administration. I know that everyone will be shocked that Matt headed straight for the bar.
Straight for the bar. To your benefit, Dan.
Yes, I will say a little bit of a benefit.
Well, I happen to know, because I've been in one or two, that some of the most interesting conversation starts and perhaps ends in the bar area. So I wanted to come up to the bar area here at Scoreboard, Cedar Creek Marina, and I wanted to ask these guys if they, by show of hands, just if anyone has an airing of the Biden grievances, it is time to kind of wash this away. Let 2023 go, get on to 2024 with a more positive approach and attitude. So what is your Biden grievance? If you have an airing of grievances, maybe I don't get any takers. I don't know.
You know what, Mike? Okay, so Matt, just so you know, I don't know if the people at the bar are actually listeners to WTN.
No. Look, hold on, Dan. Hold on. Are you guys listeners of WTN? Yeah, they're listeners. And I have a gentleman right here in a lovely FedEx shirt who has an airing of grievances.
All right,
sir. What is your name?
Chuck.
All right, Chuck. And what is your grievance?
Adding 4 years to my retirement age.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Yeah, I won't be able to retire for 4 more years after the.
And your expected retirement's what, about in 2050?
It is now.
See what I did there?
Yeah, it is now.
Oh, that's sad. No, that's no good. No, in all seriousness, he added that 4 years?
I'm sorry?
I mean, just based on the economy and based on his impact.
It's the economy and what it's done to my retirement account that I put into.
Oh, man, I'm going to buy you a drink, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm buying him a drink to help with his personal economy. There you go.
Chuck, that's rough.
Chuck, that's bad.
And here's the thing is, Chris and Matt and I and Brian, we talk about things like the border. We talk about the economy, generally speaking. But, I mean, Chuck's story is one that we hear all the time, where it gets from, generic kind of conversations about, quote, the economy to people not being able to retire for another 4 years. That is incredibly sad. And I know that there's probably a lot of folks here that have experienced what Chuck has experienced. And whether it's the economy, when you personalize what we're talking about, it's not being able to retire. It's not being able to afford, the same amount of groceries you could under Donald Trump. And see, that goes right back to what I was saying before, where Trump supporters have nothing to be ashamed of. It's the Biden folks that voted this guy in that has torched our economy, torched our border, and done all of these other things.
Yeah, and it's funny, this time of year you put on the holiday movies, you watch Home Alone, and Kevin McAllister can get all this stuff at the grocery store for $20, and it's not like that anymore. However, the wage for the cashier is probably exactly the same.
That's exactly right.
And we have fun with this, guys, and we should. And I know, and Chuck is here; he's having a good time as well. But when Chuck gives that answer, it gets real, right? I mean, we joke around and we have a good time, but I mean, he has sincerely, this president and this administration has sincerely hurt people and their economic situation. And if you're at retirement age, you don't get that back. You don't get that back. I've got another airing of grievances. You guys ready?
Yes, go.
All right, sir. What is your name?
My name's Jeff.
Where are you calling from, Jeff?
I am calling from Cedar Creek Marina.
Very good. See, Jeff's quick. And what is your grievance, sir?
My grievance is the border. Because he walks into office, he said that anybody that signs executive orders is a dictator, and now they're calling Trump a dictator. And now what did he do when he walked into office? He signed all these executive orders and opened the border up, and now we have this flood of people that they want to make to be able to vote. And you know what? We've lived here. I'm 65 years old. We've lived here my entire life. I've seen everything happen. I'm going, this cannot continue.
That's a great answer, and thank you, sir. The border, gentlemen, border security, the airing of grievances.
Wasn't there just a story yesterday about how we had set the one-day record for a number of migrants coming across the southern border? And it's almost like every day there's another record set when it comes to the border. And so every day it's like deja vu all over again. And for a lot of folks, I know that is the biggest Biden grievance. Now, some really skinny guy is come and sat down to my left.
He's tiny.
Real tiny. Hey, can we get some cheesecake for Brian Wilson, please?
Brian
I'm in
Wilson,
favor of that.
everybody's in the house. Woo!
Mount Wilson has turned into like a little hill.
Well, and I don't recommend the way that I got there, but
Yes.
I'm happy to be a little less than I was last year.
Now, do we have to call you like Papa because of the little dogs you have have running around?
We are celebrating a little Solo, the puppy, Grogu's puppy, and that's turned Christmas into sort of a special time. And
Yeah.
a little puppy in the house. 11 Christmas trees. I mean, Christmas is thrown up all over my house, and and we are ready for the season.
Do we have any more grievances?
All right, I'm ready. I was anxiously anticipating the arrival of Brian Wilson. He's here. Look at him. He's here. I have hats for everybody. You guys want your hats?
Sure.
I have hats for everybody. Hold on. So if you're watching on SuperTalk TV, this will be much better for you. But I decided to in the spirit, Chris Hand was the original one that said this should really be a holiday show. And so I got this for Brian. This is a big elf hat. I trust me when I tell you, Brian, that's cleaned. That is all good.
Cleaned.
And I got this one for Mr. Hand. Chris, that's for
thank
you.
you.
That's a
Thank
Christmas
you, sir.
hat.
Thank
and
you.
then I got this one right here for Dan. Dan, here's your hat. So just go ahead and put that on. Don't worry about it. You can kind of remove the strap there.
Sure.
And
oh my goodness.
the tab goes in the front there, and and there.
Am I doing this right?
Super dope.
It is.
Do I look super dope?
It is everything I wanted it to be and more. Now that's John Henry's hat. That's my dog's hat.
You gave me your dog's hat?
Yeah, it has the little flaps up here.
Yeah.
Everybody look. The little flaps up here are for his ears. See, his ears come out of the flaps.
I hate you, Chris.
Yeah.
Matt.
A Freudian slip there. Freudian slip, huh?
There you go. But I can do airing of grievances. Dan, if you have one, you can just go ahead and go first. You look great.
My
look
grievance is Matt Murphy.
You look
Oh,
great.
You actually don't look
That's
bad in this hat.
you look pretty
Sure.
good. You look like Cousin Eddie from
just
Christmas
I do look like
Vacation.
Cousin Eddie.
All right, so we're doing airing of all right, I've got one, Dan. I've got an airing of grievances. All right, you have to say your name.
Hi, my name is Gwen.
Grin, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Gallatin, Tennessee, officially, but I'm here at Mount Juliet tonight.
What is your airing of grievances? What is your grievance?
Joe Biden and his administration has destroyed the sanctity, the security, and the solidarity of this great country.
That's real right there.
It is.
She got real quick, guys.
I have a question. What time do we take the break? Is it 5:50?
5:50.
5:50. I have a question. So all the ladies in the house, is one of your main grievances with the Biden administration, how important is the whole conversation of transgender women, men playing on girls' sports teams? How big of a deal is that to the ladies?
I got a boo. I got a thumbs down. Is that a big deal to anybody? Like, so what Dan's saying is that there's a huge push, and we've talked about it on all of our shows.
Yep.
There's a push to allow, if a man claims that he identifies as a woman, even without any surgery, he is allowed to play on women's sports. And I think it's killing women's athletics, or it will eventually. We were told at first, oh, this is a one-off or this is a two-off, guys. Come on. These are people with gender dysphoria. It's happening all over the country.
Well, it is, and I just wonder if this will impact the 2024 election. If you're a female, Brian, if you're a female,
I am not a female.
No.
I'm sorry.
Let me rephrase the question, counselor.
Brian, if you're a female,
do you think the women of America who are Democrat, probably moderates, who are watching the Biden administration and these folks on the left allow men to play on women's teams, injuring girls who are playing against men who claim that they're girls? Do you think this will have in your many years?
I actually do, and I'll tell you, the group of people out there that this offends the most are like soccer moms.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a soccer dad. I had a daughter who played soccer, and I can't imagine I went to a lot of soccer games. She was on like 3 different teams at one point, and I went to a lot of soccer games, and I can't imagine how I would feel as a dad if my daughter, who was a defender, had to go up against a striker who was a boy who was transitioning into being a girl. It's just not right. It's an uneven kind of situation, and I don't think this resonates well. I think most Americans look at this and say, this is just wrong, especially if you're a parent who has a daughter who's in athletics. That resonates across the board. They hate this.
And, even if you don't have a daughter who is directly impacted, I would hope that most folks are just at least sympathetic or empathetic with those parents. We got to take a break. It is 5:50. Dan Mandis along with Brian Wilson, Matt Murphy, Chris Hand as well. Live from Scoreboard in Mount Juliet, Cedar Creek Marina. We have, do we have tables left? I think we may have some seats left. But if you want to come down, there's still plenty of room. We are here till 8 o'clock. We'll return next on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like this: fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study. They were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 51 degrees in Nashville. Latest forecast traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Las Vegas police are looking into why a 67-year-old shooter killed 3 faculty members at UNLV yesterday. Sheriff Kevin McMahill is with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department.
We're still learning a lot about this suspect and still trying to understand motive. We know he applied numerous times for a job with several Nevada higher education institutions and was denied each time.
They say the shooter sent letters without return addresses in the mail. The sheriff says the first letter they opened had an unknown white powdery substance in it. They also now know the shooter was struggling financially. They found an eviction notice taped to the front door of his apartment. Back here in Tennessee, 2 people died today following a single-engine airplane crash. This was in Giles County. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik gives more info.
Right now, the state medical examiner and FAA are investigating the crash. Giles County EMS said happened at 11 this morning. We know from FlightAware this plane took off from Knoxville and was heading toward Pulaski. The Giles County Sheriff's Office says the FAA was looking for the plane and lost contact. The 2 people have not been identified yet, but FlightAware says the plane was registered with Plantation Reclaimed Incorporation out of Knoxville, a wood reclaiming business.
And EMS says right now they are unsure if more people were on board. Over to the Lone Star State in Texas, a district judge has granted a pregnant woman permission to get an abortion. This is directly challenging the state's ban that took effect after Roe v. Wade was overturned to the states last year. 31-year-old Kate Cox is 20 weeks pregnant, and doctors say her fetus has a fatal diagnosis. And a new Biden administration proposal could make a certain child care option way more expensive. Alexis Christoforous.
The State Department's proposed changes could more than double the cost of hiring an au pair and put the popular child care option out of reach for many families. In addition to providing lodging and food for foreign nannies, the new changes would tie an au pair's weekly stipend to a state's local minimum wage instead of the current stipend of about $200. It would also require host families to pay au pairs time and a half for work beyond 40 hours a week. The number of au pairs in Massachusetts fell 68% after the state adopted similar rules in 2019.
Some entertainment news. Legendary classic rock bands Journey, Def Leppard, and the Steve Miller Band are making their way to Music City next summer. Def Leppard and Journey invited the Steve Miller Band for the Nashville show at Nissan Stadium as a part of their Summer Stadium tour next year. Sales for the tickets have not yet begun, but there is a site for pre-sale on the band's tour website that starts December 12th for 2 days until general admission sales open. That is the latest news. Weather and traffic are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Brian Wilson here, coming to you live from Mount Juliet, the Cedar Creek Marina. Hello! It is a vibrant crowd we have on hand here. Brian Wilson, along with Dan Mandis, Chris Ann, and Matt Murphy, all broadcasting live here till 8 o'clock. And we have a couple of seats left, so if you're interested in coming out and join us, we'd love to have you. Been a very interesting day in the news, but let's put the news aside for a little bit and talk about, as you look back over the past year, guys, I'm just sort of curious, what do you think was the biggest story that we all had to deal with? Now, Chris, you weren't here for the entire year, but what did you think was the most interesting or the most important story that we dealt with?
Oh, he said Chris first.
Well,
I'm thinking, Brian, I think I'm missing something. Dan, what do you got?
No,
we're just going to pass it around the room while we think.
Is that what we're going to do? No,
Right.
I've got a couple stories.
All right.
And we touched on it in the previous segment. So from a world perspective, I think the most interesting story, tragically, is the attack on Israel and then its impact here in America.
Right.
So to me, that was the most interesting, the most personally impactful is the economy. I think so. Yeah. Those are the two most overarching stories that we've covered. Of course, there's the border and everything else, and there's Roomba President Joe Biden. But
I would go. I don't know if that's me or not. I would go. I think I take it from a local perspective. I would go Covenant.
I think Covenant was perhaps for us the most impactful story. Had a direct impact on this community, and it was so. I don't want to be a downer here at a fun event, but I mean, really, honestly, we're still talking about that particular story. Normally, when something like this happens, you don't talk about it after a month or so. It sort of fades from memory. This one hasn't, and it had a real impact on the community, and still it could still have an impact on public policy. So I think that's the one that comes to mind. On the national level, I think you have to say the surprising attack of October 7th was impactful, and the shocking response in this country. I'm stunned by what we have seen on the streets of America. I would have never in a million years saw that one coming. I would never have expected to occur. And then, from politically, it's just been, the whole speaker battle, finding a speaker,
it was big.
Then losing a speaker, and then trying to find a new speaker. Those were fun days. And then beyond that, I would say probably just watching the deterioration of this administration. I mean, every day,
and of him,
and watching him, getting weaker and weaker right before our eyes, and that there are so many people in America who refuse to see that for what it is.
But see what? I think he's the most mentally fit and competent president we've ever had. Isn't that what Karine Jean-Pierre tells us?
Just watch him.
Just watch. I think that one of the biggest stories in the country is the southern border. And I think it's one of those that we just can't get away from, and the impact is going to be felt here for a while. And I feel like at a certain point, the biggest part of that story is yet to come, because we're all waiting for that other shoe to drop when it comes to a potential terrorist attack.
Well, this is the thing that keeps me up at night, thinking about, because I know that border, and it's wide open, and it's hard to cover it even if you're not having a crisis and all that chaos down there. And for the 1.8 million people that have come across we don't know anything about who they are, where they are, what they're up to. We know nothing about these people, except that I do know this. The way these things work is in the morning, the people who want to come in contact with the Border Patrol get their little slip of paper and move on. That happens early in the morning. And then when the Border Patrol is completely overwhelmed by that, then they slip the people that don't want to have any contact. And so the second wave that comes during a day are the people that you got to be concerned about. Why are they avoiding law enforcement? Any intelligence agency worth its salt would take advantage of this situation.
Oh, sure. And the Chinese are.
Yeah. I mean, it's 168 Chinese people showed up in California the other day.
And there's a viral video now of basically it's a Chinese underground railroad. There's hotel stops in Colombia. There's instructions on WhatsApp, and you'll go to a hotel in Colombia and it's all Chinese nationals, and they're working their way up through the border.
What do you make of the fact, Brian, that they were all well dressed, and even some of them traipsing through the desert, yet They're not dirty. They're wearing long sleeves and so forth. Just a very bizarre story that, of course, as it should, made national headlines. But what do you make of the fact that they were all just naturally dressed and they had, luggage and everything? It's like somebody dropped them right off the border.
Hey, Dan, they just got off a bus.
I don't mean to interrupt your line of thought, but we need to get nice and personal. There are several listeners that are concerned, or viewers that are concerned, that they cannot see Brian Wilson. And Brian Wilson, being the most fetching, handsome of the four of us, they demand to see Brian Wilson on the camera. They want less of Mandis, less of Murphy, more Wilson, more Hand. I'm just reporting the news. I'm just letting you know. All right, there you go. There. All right, please carry on with a very important discussion.
Well, no. I mean, in the border, the thing is absolutely, and what I'm really happy to see is that Republicans have finally gotten a spine, and by the way, united. Both the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans all in agreement. They're not going to give another penny to Ukraine, not another penny for foreign aid, even to Israel, until the Biden administration does something about the border. And the Biden administration is being very disingenuous in this whole conversation, saying things like, well, we offered to give them some money for the border. Well, what they wanted to do was send $6 billion to speed up the processing, not to secure the border. And so they talk as if they're trying to work with these Republicans, but the Republicans are being unable to. They can't come to any terms. They won't be bipartisan in any way. They won't come to any kind of compromise. The compromise is, if you want money for this, you got to do the other, which is secure the border.
Well, it reminds me of that old political conceit that you're either being dishonest or you're horrible at the job. Right? So if you sincerely tell the American people, if you look at the American people in the eye and tell them that you are doing your best at the southern border, you are either lying through your teeth or your best is not good enough, not by a long shot, and you need to be replaced. We've all said it in our own ways, and I'll give Hand credit because he said it just this morning, and I think it's exactly right. These are all important issues. The Israeli conflict is an important issue that needs to be discussed. The Ukrainian conflict is an important issue. We need to talk about what America's involvement should be. It is a shame. It is a crime in this country that our most important topic is not and always should be the southern border, because it impacts these people at Scoreboard, at Cedar Creek Marina, far more than the other impact. I'm not suggesting that the other is not important. I'm suggesting our priorities are out of whack, and I think they're out of whack because the mainstream media knows that if they discuss it in the way that we do on a daily basis, it looks horrible for the Biden administration.
Yeah. And the numbers, as we look forward to 2024, I would say, anything can happen. This has been going to be a very unpredictable election cycle. But right now, Republicans are poised well.
I would hope.
Yeah, but we were poised well heading into 2022 in the midterms. So, I mean, how worried is everyone about the midterms? I should say about 2024 in the presidential election, because we know that, according to all the polling, we're supposed to have a red wave. That didn't, and we have the same issues now that we had, by and large, in 2022. We still have a lot of the same issues that should be great for Republicans politically, terrible for America, but politically great for Republicans. And we all know what happened in 2024. In 2022. Some successes, but not nearly what we thought that they would be. So how confident are you in 2024 given what happened in 2022?
I'm not confident that the Republican Party and conservatives more broadly are doing what they need to do to make sure that we have free, fair, and open elections in the United States of America that are lawful elections. I'm not confident at all. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to be I'm going to choose to be optimistic and be a 5. But we need to do as much as we possibly can to secure our election process.
Well, and DeSantis touched on this last night at the debate, and I thought he was on point. We need to play by their rules in their states. If they're ballot harvesting, we should be ballot harvesting.
Exactly.
If they're using Zuckerbucks, we should be using Zuckerbucks. And we've known this for a while, but it doesn't seem like the Republican Party has done anything to get their you-know-what into gear to make it happen.
Well, I have a bit more optimism about that than maybe you do, on Chris. I mean, I have concerns that we're moving into doing things in a different way. But I think the message has been received. I think people have understood that we've got to play a better game of voting early and doing whatever is allowed under state law to get those ballots, in early before Election Day.
But is it too little too late? Because the Democrats have had their people there ready to do it now.
You're right. They have their procedures down. They have the process down. They've been doing it. They're good at it. And we're starting this now. And I grant you that one. But I don't think it's been lost on everybody that we have to play their game.
But the Republicans are always way behind. They had the Win Blue? We have Win Red. They had Share Blue. But their Share Blue has been there for decades, and Win Red is relatively new.
Well, and I would agree with you to the point that I remember in 2020 when a lot of conservatives would call my radio show and say, yeah, the liberals, they early vote, whatever. We vote on voting day because that's the way that it goes. That's the way that it should be. The times have changed, folks. We need to encourage everyone. I am against this early voting period that lasts in some states for months.
Yeah.
I'm against it. I wish that I could change it. If I were king for the day, I would. But we cannot, and we need to embrace the system that you have in your individual states, wherever you're listening, and in the state of Tennessee. I mean, we don't have the problems that some other states have, but conservatives have to embrace the system that they are given, and they have to move it in their direction for their own benefit, as opposed to pushing against the system that is available for them for voting.
I couldn't agree more with you. We've got to get the game going. We have to understand how the game is played today. We have to change our thinking. We must think anew, as Lincoln said. We must think anew.
And all of us, Brian, all of us on this stage, I mean, I think we're charged with the duty. I mean, because we all have our own thoughts about all of this. We all offer our own opinions about all of this. But we have a duty to encourage younger people in Tennessee and beyond to consider conservatism, libertarianism, the Republican Party, consider other alternatives to Democrats. Democrats are so good at grabbing young people.
Oh, they sure are.
And we need to be more invested in taking those minds and saying, wait a minute, there's a different alternative, and it's not what you hear about on CNN. It's not what you hear about on MSNBC. It is a better America. It's a more free America, a more liberty-leaning America. We present that to the younger generation and combine that with Joe Biden in the White House and wanting re-election. I think we've got a winning strategy.
We've been asleep at the wheel and watched these things develop. The Democrats have figured out how to indoctrinate on the college level, on the high school level. Even now, they want to be in elementary schools and with some of the ideas that they want to indoctrinate our young people with. We are way late on that game for sure. But I am sort of a little bit more optimistic again, in that I keep seeing these things that young people are not at all enamored with the things that have come out of the Biden administration. Now, can they bring themselves to vote for somebody like Donald Trump? I don't know. But I do think that they're not going to be particularly enthusiastic about voting for an old man who can't find his way off the stage.
Do you think part of that, Brian, is the ultimate unifier, which you would think, is the economy? Do you think the economy is hitting the younger people?
It is.
So hard that they're taking a closer look at politics, perhaps like they have not looked at politics before?
I think absolutely that's the case.
I think on the flip side of that coin, the mainstream media doesn't have as much of a grasp on young people because they're not watching it the same way that the older generations do.
All right, listen, we're live at Cedar Creek Marina and here in Mount Juliet. We still have a little bit of room if you want to come out and join us. We'd love to have you join us. We're here till 8 o'clock tonight. We will we'll be moving and grooving through the audience and talking to people and shaking hands and taking pictures, whatever you want. But we'd love to have you come out and join us. Right now it's 6:20 on SuperTalk 99.7. Good evening, everybody. Brian Wilson along with the Dan Madness, Chris Hand, and Matt Murphy. We're coming to you live from Mount Juliet, where the party scene is in full swing. We're at Cedar Creek Marina, if you know where that is, and we have a couple of seats. I mean, it's filling up, but we got a couple of seats left, so if you'd like to join us, we'll be here till 8 o'clock tonight. All four of the hosts in one location. We're having food, we're having beverage, and we're having a good time. And Matt Murphy is going to play the role of Phil Donahue now, and there's some dated reference.
Yes. Oh, a dated reference lost on younger listeners.
That's right.
Phil Donahue.
Well, one of the things that we wanted to try to do is, can anyone guess?
All right, here we go.
Matt is wearing
listen up. Listen up, people. Listen up. Contest.
Matt is wearing a sweater that he says is from a movie.
Yeah, it is.
Now, I can't figure it out. Brian can't figure it out.
You win a drink if you know what movie it's from.
So show of hands. Does anybody know what movie?
Real quick, and I'll get to you. All right, real quick.
I'm sure this is great for the radio. It is a white sweater with.
I'll do it on TV.
Yeah, you can see it on SuperTalk TV on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch.
Hello.
There you go.
How are you?
Yeah.
This is it. You saw it today on the Chris Hand Show. I had it on during the Chris Hand Show.
Okay.
Right at the end of the Chris Hand. I took it off because the studio was so damn hot.
Well,
I'm sorry, darn hot. Mm-hmm.
Anybody?
Anybody?
So does anybody know? Show of hands. All right. So somebody wait. No, a couple of people up there at the bar. Of course.
All right. Of course, the bar people. All right, I'm moving.
See, you'll notice how fast he walks to the bar. How quickly Matt Murphy walks to the bar.
I don't walk.
It's almost
I
like
don't walk to your office nearly this fast.
No, you don't. It's like he's got.
Who had their hand up? All right. What's your name, sir?
Brent.
Where are you from, Brent?
Mount Juliet.
And what is your answer?
The Big Lebowski.
It's the dude's sweater. It's the Big Lebowski
from the
sweater.
for Jeff
This
Daniels?
is the legit sweater from the actual company that made the Big Lebowski. I've wanted one of these for years. My wife bought me one last Christmas.
Get that man a white Russian.
All right, get that. You get a white Russian, sir. No, he does not want a white Russian, Chris.
All
All right, I'll take the white Russian. What do you like?
Jack Daniels.
True American, Jack Daniels, right here in Tennessee, Lynchburg.
So what does that
Love
make
it.
you drinking the White Russian?
I'm a communist, Dan.
He's a sleeper cell.
I'm a communist.
I've heard that about you. All right, so.
Well, we got that out of the way.
We sure did.
Brian seems pleased.
I love visual segments on the radio. That always works.
Listen, we justified it by putting him in front of SuperTalk TV.
That's right.
And that is important. I wonder how many people are watching. Can you look at SuperTalk TV, Chris, and tell us how many people are watching?
Thousands, Dan.
There are not thousands watching SuperTalk TV.
It says here several.
Several.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
Look, I'm in the bar. I just passed a guy that had a hat on that says Biden sucks. We're in the right place, people.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, as we look at this crowd, I mean, we got the dining room here that is just about full. I think it is full, actually.
No, the bar area is really full. Well, I don't know what that says about our listening audience, but it's really
Listen,
full.
there's a lot of things to try to drink away these days, and so that's what's happening out there in the bar. Speaking of which, where do you want to go next?
I don't know. Let's talk about Christmas.
Okay.
What's going on at your house for this Christmas?
Chris?
We got an elf on the shelf doing that thing.
Oh, are you really?
I bent the
hate
knee.
those little things.
Can I just say, I've never understood the elf on the shelf thing.
So I didn't. We held out as long as we could, and then the other kids at school started getting them. And I was so embarrassed to go in there and get one that I didn't look, and I just leaned over and grabbed one. I accidentally purchased a Mexican elf on the shelf.
Oh, really?
We have a Mexican elf on the shelf in my house.
How did you accidentally?
Because I didn't look. I did it quick. I grabbed the box, and I just got out of there. I didn't want to be recognized buying the elf. And I accidentally got the It's a true story.
All right. You haven't lived until you've been recognized in a liquor store buying 5 bottles of wine, which actually happened to me.
What about your house, Dan?
You know, we've got, it's nowhere near the 11 or 12 Christmas trees that you have.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
We've got, but what is your tallest tree?
27 and a half feet tall.
27 and a half feet
That's
tall.
the one outside.
Is that the inflatable?
That's the inflatable.
Okay, but what about actual trees?
Oh, probably right around 6 or 7 feet. None of them are huge, but there's 11 of them.
So I've got a 12-foot tree It is in the living room. I believe all of our trees are now up. Riker has a tree in his room. We've got one in the living room. We've got them sort of all over the house. And Amy's got a lot of her shopping done. I have yet to start.
Yeah, that's the same.
Can I just ask, what is it about, and I'm not attacking the women, but what is it about y'all that refuse to help your husbands and boyfriends out? Just tell us what you want for Christmas.
Yeah, no.
Amy is like, no, I want you to get creative and pick something out or pick a bunch of gifts out for me on your own. And a few years ago, I don't know if you remember this story, Brian, but a couple of years ago, somehow I managed to buy her something called HypoCleanse,
right,
which is apparently some sort of a medical liquidy something to do, like wash your hands really good or something. And it was a mistake that I made, but I just told her, listen, if you want more HypoCleanse, this is exactly how you get it, leaving me to my own devices.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and that's the thing that I always say. You know, I had to go through a little heart procedure earlier this year.
Yep.
I actually had to go through 2 of them, but, I mean, they were outpatient things, but I did undergo anesthesia. And so when I came out, the first time I came out of anesthesia, Cabana wife, started this whole thing about, well, I was still goofy and out of it. Hey, are you going to take me on a big trip? And she's recording this with her cell phone.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you're going to take me on a nice vacation? Sure, whatever you want. Hey, you're going to buy me a lot of nice jewelry? Do you think I'd? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I'm sort of in for jewelry this year, I have a feeling.
Listen, you promised, and she's got it on video.
Well, I know it's on video, but I mean, honestly, the year that I've had, I don't want to, moan and groan and talk about stuff that's negative, but I had a tough year. I mean, between a bout with shingles that caused me to lose 60 pounds, and 2 of these little heart procedures, I'm fine now. Everything's great. I never felt better in my life, and I feel like I'm ready to go. I mean, everything is just rocking and rolling. But it was a tough year, and if it had not been for the love and support of my lovely wife, she was there for me for everything in a huge way. So
you owe her lots of bling.
I owe her bling. That's
exactly right.
Hey, listen, we got to take a break. We're way past time for the news. It's 6:30 now on SuperTalk 99.7.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. We are live from Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina, surrounded by the most beautiful people in Middle Tennessee. We are so excited to be here. My name is Chris Hand. We are joined by Matt Murphy, Dan Mandis, the one and only Brian Wilson. And thank you for joining us on the radio.
Actually, there are other Brian Wilsons, but I'm the one that matters.
You know what is it about you?
The tallest Brian
the
Wilson.
one and only Brian Wilson. I consider you the one and only.
Well, okay, thanks.
You're the only one, though, Matt.
There was this guy, had some success on the charts back in the day.
Have I ever told you the story that when I first came to Nashville, Tennessee, and I was telling my friends and neighbors about what I was going to, and this behemoth, this incredible radio station, this incredible group of listeners, this incredible town, and I said, Brian Wilson is on this radio station, and it was about 70-30. And I think you're pretty good with the 30. 70% Beach Boys, 30% Fox News, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty good as a percentage.
I actually interviewed him one time. Well, I was in part of an interview with him. I was sitting, when I was working at Fox News one day, I was sitting around and I heard a tease from one of the anchors. Hey, coming up a little bit later, Brian Wilson is going to join us. And I went, I don't know anything about this. And, I thought they were talking about me. Right. And then they said, no, the Beach Boy. I went, oh. So I called them up. It was like 10 minutes before the interview was supposed to take place. Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys was going to be interviewed by one of the anchors out of New York. And I said, how can you not have a moment where Brian Wilson meets Brian Wilson? And they said, you're right. Get in the chair. So I went and got in the chair. And, poor Brian at that time, he's still a little fuzzy, not as sharp as he was back in the day. And the whole story about Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys and all of the things he went through. There's been movies about it, etc. And so it turned out that I saved that entire segment because he would answer with one or two words.
Oh, that's always fun.
It's like, the worst interview in the world. Now, it's Brian Wilson, but so having me there gave them enough to fill out the segment. Otherwise, it would have been the most awkward moment ever. But he, I hope to have met him. I was at the 50th anniversary concert. I got backstage. He'd already gone. I mean, he came right off the stage, gets in the limo, goes to the hotel. I mean, he just doesn't. He doesn't interact with people.
You know what I learned from this? All Brian Wilsons are divas.
Yeah, well,
I'm kidding.
I like how
Dan Mandis would say. I'm kidding.
I like how you said you didn't miss a moment and that it was a little awkward because we all know Mac Morey. He doesn't want me to miss a moment. He wants me to ask you, Brian, are birds real?
Are birds real?
Clearly, Brian missed that whole segment.
By the way, Brian, this is your fault. You told Hand. Right? Let me give you guys a little peek behind the curtain. Right? So, it's Brian's show. We're just all here.
I know, and I'm happy to share the stage.
And Brian was sharing, and Brian said, Chris, take the lead on this next segment. And this is your fault. This is what you get. Are birds real?
So what's the story?
He will tell you.
I'm looking for a yes or no answer first.
Yes, birds are real.
Okay. All right. All right.
What's the story?
Don't look at me.
You got to explain it to me and the rest of the audience. I mean,
so we're on the air with Mac Morey, and I heard the tail end of a weather report, and I said, Mac, fact check that. Snow, wet snow, fact check that.
The weather report said that there was going to be wet snow
in some parts of the viewing area,
right. And Chris was doubting.
So I said to Mac, fact check it, and he doesn't do it. And I lean in on him. I'm like, Mac, fact check it. He comes back about 30 seconds later. He says, well, Chris, there is in fact wet snow. And he fact checked whether or not there was wet snow. For me.
Oh.
So then that led us down the road about we're conservatives, but we have to have fun to bring people into the party.
Right, exactly.
And when I go to America Fest here in a couple weeks with Turning Point USA, or next week, we're doing round tables with some contributors. We did them with Tucker Carlson at ActCon.
Right.
And so we're spinning a wheel, and one of the topics is a Gen Z conspiracy.
Birds are not real?
That birds are not real. That is a TikTok Gen Z conspiracy. And
by show of hands, birds real? Birds real, everybody?
Only one hand went up.
Birds real.
So there's a Gen Z conspiracy on TikTok that birds aren't real, and it comes from the Cold War. America killed a guy in America basically turned a bird into a drone to spy on Soviets. Declassified documents.
Wow.
The more you know.
Okay.
Hey, you brought up Tucker.
I blame you, Brian,
I worry
for
about
allowing
worry
Chris
about the Gen Z. That's what I worry
I
about.
worry about 9 to noon on SuperTalk. I'm just kidding.
You brought up Tucker Carlson. Did you guys see the story today about how Trump is Melania
Yeah, I saw that.
trying to convince Donald Trump to choose Tucker Carlson as his running mate?
That story was leaked by Tucker Carlson.
Oh, I'm sure that it was.
Is that true? Because
I don't know.
I was about to say the same thing.
Listen, I know Tucker a little bit. I wouldn't say we're close friends, but we're acquaintances, and I've been around him a bit. And I love the guy. I've always liked the guy. I don't always agree with the guy, but I like him a lot. And he's a hell of a good guy. And he's always whenever you see him, he's always got a nice word. And never he's a happy warrior. Have you been around him? You've been around him? Yeah.
Yep.
He's always got a nice word and something positive to say. And if you're having a down day and he finds out about it, he will go out of his way to come over and slap you on the back, say a nice thing or two.
One of the things that I noticed about him is whether he's doing stuff with Charlie Kirk or he's doing stuff with students or he's talking to the guy that's running security, he's the same Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. Yeah, and we used to. I mean, my first encounter with Tucker Carlson was when I was working at WTTG before I went to Fox News, even in Washington. And we did a morning show, and he came to our round table, and it was Margaret Carlson and Tucker Carlson, the two Carlsons, and it was a great segment. One was on the left, one was on the right, and he's been consistent across his. I like the fact that he's seems to be flourishing post Fox.
You know what I love about Tucker? He had a lot of failure before he hit all that success with Fox News. It was like he persevered, he moved on, and finally he ditched the bow tie and he became a massive success on Fox News.
Getting rid of the bow tie was the key. I think
Absolutely.
Roger Ailes told him you cannot wear the bow tie if you come over here.
But the question is, and we only have about 2.5 minutes left,
Mm-hmm.
so Tucker Carlson as vice president, if that one, do you believe, Brian, do you believe that's true?
No. It may be true that Melania likes Tucker Carlson and thinks it'd be a good thing. I'm not sure. That would be fascinating. I think he'll serve in a Trump administration, but I don't think he'll be the vice president.
I think that is an unbeatable ticket, and we would all be
Really?
winners.
Well,
we would all be winners for a Tucker Carlson Kamala Harris debate.
I don't disagree with that.
Can you
I don't
imagine?
think anyone who serves as a vice presidential running mate or a vice president to Donald Trump has to act subservient to Donald Trump. In other words, you do not take the stage.
Nope.
You do not act in a way that's inconsistent with what he wants to message, and that messaging will change day to day, minute to minute, moment
You
by
may not
moment.
even know the message has changed.
And I don't think Tucker could do that. I think Tucker, if he wants to serve in that capacity, would be better suited to run for president, honestly. And maybe that's to come for him. Donald Trump has opened that window for everyone who is not in public life to be able to do that.
That's a good point.
But the best Tucker Carlson, I know we've got to go. The best Tucker Carlson moment to show you what type of guy he is was the ambush video that the guy did when Tucker was fishing in Washington, D.C. And he thought he was going to get Tucker, and Tucker was going to scream at him.
He just laughed at him.
He laughed. No, he talked to him. He laughed at him and then engaged him. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just fishing. You know, you're allowed to fish. And he talked to him. It's a 5-minute. Just go and watch it, and you'll understand what type of guy that guy is.
Yeah, he's a peach of a guy, and you know he. I think when he was as surprised as anybody when the thing came to a close at Fox. I don't think he saw that coming around the corner. I mean, it was a big surprise from what I hear.
What do you hear? Why did that happen?
I have never heard. I've never heard a conclusive explanation. In fact, I don't think he knows for sure.
They just got canned.
They just the phone call comes. You're not going on tonight.
Every time I've gotten fired, I've been very sure, Dan. Just to let you know.
There's always the first time for everything, man.
On that note, 48 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I recently did a workshop talking about some of the missteps of the investing industry, some of the biggest mutual fund companies out there. You probably recognize these names: Fidelity, Vanguard, Raymond James, Edward Jones, actually using data and information from their own websites as I walk through this. Now, one of the things I was talking about is diversification and how investors could be in for a rude awakening at the amount of risk that they actually have in their portfolios, and they don't even realize it. Now, the example I like to use to help people understand why why do these huge companies do this? I mean, these are big companies. And you go, well, why? Well, think about the diet industry. In the diet industry, you had things like fat-free this, fat-free that, fat-free that. And what happened is they did a study, they were looking at diabetes in children. And what they found was that when they went fat-free, they actually ended up with more diabetes rather than less, because what they substituted for fat was sugar. Now, what happens in the mutual fund industry, they tend to keep costs low by investing in very narrow areas of the market that are inexpensive to manage. So what happens is the investor ends up with more risk than they think that they've got. Now, why do they do that? Because you are actually attracted by low costs. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use these big mutual fund companies. It just means that you have to be eyes wide open. As an investment firm, we help people sidestep these things because sometimes you have no choice. You have a 401k, you're dealing with these fund companies, and you can't go anywhere else. So what we do is we help you go around these landmines. To set up an initial 15-minute phone call, go to our website, paulwinkler.com, or you can just scan the QR code right here. We look forward to talking with you.
53 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Brian Wilson coming to you live from Mount Juliet. A special edition of The Drive tonight because it's not just me. It's Chris Hand. It's Dan Bandis. It's Matt Murphy. We're all here in Mount Juliet for a special live broadcast at the Cedar Creek Marina. Scoreboards. The food is great.
The food is awesome.
The drinks are great. And the company is great because the people who listen to this radio station have shown up in droves, and we're going to be here until 8 o'clock. We got a little over an hour to go before we'll wrap things up. So if you're in the area, come on by. We'd love to see you. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about life as it. I want to ask you, Chris, how has it been? You know, you're the new guy, and I mean, I don't.
New guy.
Yeah, the new guy. but. How do you feel about Nashville and settling in, and how is it for your family and all that?
Well, we had been in Nashville for a while, so we're pretty settled. But we feel blessed. I mean, I'm so happy to be a part of this station and to work with you guys and Dan and Matt and you and Mac and Chris and Johnny. I mean, we have the best gang of guys that I've ever worked with at any radio station, period. And I've worked at a lot of radio stations.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're happy to have you, and your show seems to be doing really well. I get to listen in the mornings when I'm out running around doing errands. I do my errands in the morning, and I work in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy. I always walk away going, that's something I hadn't thought about. I really love that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean, I mean that sincerely. I think that the shift there that you've got going, you've got that show dialed in, and we're glad to have you. We really are.
Thank you.
He and Mac have way too much fun. And it's good, but that's good.
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, that guy is he's a talented fellow.
Mac Morey. Oh my gosh, I couldn't have picked a better producer if I had my own choice.
Mac, you cannot have a raise. Matt Murphy is over there. Hey, Matt.
Hello. Oh, hello. Thank you, T. I appreciate that. We're at Scoreboard, Cedar Creek Marina. We'd love to see you. And by the way, if you're here, hello to all of you who are here. I would like to do something. I'm going to usurp the segment, if I may, and ask all of these folks if they have any questions for the panel. If you have any questions,
Stump the Chumps.
Stump the Chumps. So all you have to do is raise your hand and tell me that you have a question. It could be a question about, I don't know, Dan Mandis' hair loss. It could be a question about Brian Wilson's weight loss. It could be a question about Chris Hand and his large family. It could be a question about anything of your choosing. I ask you to raise your hand and give me those questions, and we'll answer them for you on SuperTalk 99.7 WT.
Why don't we just cut to the chase? My hair loss started happening at 18, and it just kept on falling out.
All right, so can we do that next?
Yeah, we can do that next.
All right.
All right, very good.
All right, well, I'll get them ready. I'm going to queue them up. I'm going to go over to the bar for no other reason than to find questions.
That's
questions.
What it is.
I'm going to find questions.
I guess we're out in 10 seconds.
Cheers, everybody.
8 seconds, 7. All right, well, we'll return next right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, everybody, it's Brian Wilson coming to you live from Mount Juliet for a bonus hour of The Drive. We're actually normally not on at this time, but we decided we're having so much fun out here at Cedar Creek Marina in Mount Juliet, where people have come out. Some of our listeners are here, and we got the entire team here. Brian Wilson, Dan Mandis, Chris Hand, Matt Murphy is our roving intrepid reporter, and we're going to kick off this hour with Matt asking people in the audience if they have a question for the team.
All right, so
we call this Stump the Chump.
I don't know that it's a question for the team to start it off, although I have plenty of questions that are to come. But I just had a brief conversation with our next guest, and it was a fascinating conversation. And I want to introduce her. Her name is Valerie. Say hello, Valerie.
Hello.
All right, so I'm gonna shove this right in your face, and forgive me for doing so. But just tell us the story. You just said something that's fascinating to me. You didn't know who any of these boobs were on the stage. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, but tell me just tell me what you just told me.
I said I walked in here this evening, and there was a bunch of guys up there who had no idea why you were here or why you were talking to everybody. And I had just been in the parking lot, and I didn't want to shut my radio off because I was listening to you, but I didn't know any of you were the radio people.
So you listen to 99.7?
Too much.
You listen all day?
All day.
Based. And you had zero clue what we looked like or who we were or why we were here?
No, I did not.
All right, so here's the biggest question I have to ask. Who's your favorite?
I'm not going to say.
All right, so who's closest to you?
Matt.
All right, that's enough answer for me, guys. I mean, I don't know.
Clearly you're the favorite then,
Oh, no,
Matt.
but tell me what you just told me about Dan Mandis.
I would never guess that you look like you sound, and I call you Mr. Mount Juliet because you're always telling everybody you're from Mount Juliet, and I didn't put Matt in your body. I wanted to switch your faces.
Wanted to switch our faces.
I know what to say to that.
I didn't either. So I mean, I think it's good. I think it's kind of a neutral thing.
It's like
I didn't know what to do with it.
It's
either.
like Nick Cage and John Travolta.
They said that was Dan Mandis. I said, no way.
No way, she said.
No, I didn't think it was you. But
Now, the Brian Wilson, the behemoth over there. Now he's much skinnier than he has been in the back. I know he's a skinny fella, and I mean shingles notwithstanding. Do you listen to Brian in the afternoons?
yes, I do. I drive a lot for work, and so I listen to him a lot.
Valerie, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. There's Valerie.
I think if I can,
go. Thank you, Valerie.
I'm gonna use my talk show host analysis and listen to her comments. I think what she was trying to say is that I'm a lot better looking than you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I did.
Right.
Didn't you guys take it like that?
And
I'm not sure that's what I drew from that conversation.
Whatever. Moving on.
All right, so do you have people
we gotta
out there
move
ready?
it on.
You got people to stump the
all
chumps?
right, so I'm ready. I had a lot of people that were asking to stump the chumps. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Are you ready to stump the chumps? No, he's not ready.
All right, while you go find somebody.
I'm gonna get him.
You know, she's telling the story about she didn't think that Dan looked like he looked.
Yeah.
When I was talking to my daughter at one point, she said she wants to meet Taylor Swift, and I said to her, "Be careful. You don't want to meet your heroes." And she looked at me and she said, "Yeah, like Dan Mandis." And I said, Dan's your hero? And she goes, "No, Dad. I thought he had hair."
Hey, real quick. I had one person that I was gonna get to ask a question, and he's ready to go. But I just saw a VIP, a very important person, and I might be getting in a lot of trouble to do this. But I have someone that wants to ask a question of the panel. She's a very important guest, and she's here in the bar area. And I'm going to ask her to just tell us, what's your name?
Amy.
And, Amy, where are you from?
Casa de Mandis.
Oh.
Amy, what is your question for the panel?
I don't have a question.
She doesn't have one.
Amy, here's the question. Why doesn't everyone else love Dan the way you do?
Oh, that's a great question.
I think that's
I don't
a
know if
great
you heard that. Why he's asking, why doesn't everyone else love Dan the way that you do?
That
It's a special kind of love.
That's my wife, everybody. And it's
Everybody, Amy Madness is in the house. Everybody, woo!
Hey,
Amy,
Chris Weber back in the studio. Isolate that for the.
Hold
for the
on to that
hotkeys.
little clip if you would.
Yeah,
please.
thank you.
She said it's a special kind of love.
It's a special kind of love.
I'm a special kind of guy.
You are, Dan.
Clearly.
To know him is to love him.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No,
Matt,
I've got one
Murphy?
over at the bar area, and I don't want to cut out here, but
No, you're all
sir, what is your name?
Well, this here is Bill Morgan from Materville, Tennessee.
And
Hey,
Bill
Bill. What's up,
Morgan,
Bill?
Bill knows what's up. Bill knows what's going on. For all of you in the bar area, this is the way to get it done. You say your name, you say where you're from, and you ask your question. Here goes the bill.
Cool. So this one's for Brian Wilson.
All right.
I've lived in Mount Juliet for a long time.
Right.
Looking to move to Watertown. Just wondering what area of Watertown you like the most. Do you like down toward 70? Do you like toward 40? I don't know where you're at, and I'm not asking you that. Just, what have you seen? You've been living there for a while.
Well,
what does that look like to you?
I got to tell you, Watertown has. When we were looking for a house, we had a beach house that we sold, and that we decided we were going to buy a house because I'd been renting in Mount Juliet, and we were going to buy a house, take the proceeds from the house down in the beach house, and we began looking around. Found a house we loved. And you guys have, you haven't been there. But have you been there?
No, not yet.
No, you've been there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's a beautiful home. I mean, I'm very blessed. It's a beautiful home.
Brian's home takes up half of Watertown.
So the thing that sold us though was that we loved the house, but we really loved the little town. And Watertown is a great place. The people are lovely. I mean, inside of a year, we've been there. August was 1 year. And we know the people by name at the grocery store who own the grocery store. We know people by name who run the hardware store. We know the people down at the coffee shop. Today, as I was trying to erect this behemoth 27.5-foot inflatable tree, which has been the bane of my existence because it keeps toppling over, I got help from one of the local pastors, a guy that I have coffee with on occasion, down at the coffee shop.
Tell everybody the name of the Baptist church, Brian, because it's awesome.
It's Round Lick Baptist Church.
Round Lick Baptist Church.
And Pastor Rick Burns, when he heard me talking about my dilemma with this tree, offered to come over and help us, and it was great. He actually came up with a couple of great ideas about how to keep that tree from falling over again. So I thank you, Pastor Rick. I appreciate it a lot. But I mean, it's that kind of town.
Is it like Mayberry, kind of?
It is. And when you say what part of Watertown do I love, well, the entire town, you can drive the entire town in about 40 seconds. It's that small. I mean, they have a nice little town square, and then the main street goes on out a little further, about a mile or so. But it's just a lovely place, and every time I meet somebody, I feel like I'm meeting somebody that potentially could be a friend or an acquaintance, somebody to have over at the house for dinner. It's just a lovely place, and I love the people of that little town.
What you always say from bucolic Watertown.
Bucolic, yes.
And
I got me a little case of the bucolic. You've heard that.
And I looked up bucolic.
Yes.
And it is Watertown.
Yeah.
I mean, that defines Watertown to a T.
They're doing the high school that I'm working with the high school kids there to do a little walking history tour, and what they actually came to my home recording studio and recorded the various parts. We'll put it on a server, and there'll be QR codes set up around town. You go with your phone, you take a picture of the QR code, and the history of that particular part of Watertown will appear on your phone. You'll hear them act it out, and it's a great project. And I'm telling you, that's the kind of town. I love working with the local high school and the local theater department, and I love going to the grocery store and having everybody say, "Hey, Brian," I go, "Hey, Kevin, how's it going?" That kind of stuff.
Don't you do that in your four-wheeler? Aren't you on your four-wheeler?
Sometimes
on your four-wheeler. I want to give Andrea an opportunity to give a shout-out to her daughter because we have talked on a couple of occasions, and she's very shy. Hey, Andrea.
Kendra went to the restroom to avoid a microphone. So.
Am I saying her name right, Andrea?
Andrea, yes.
And how long have you listened to SuperTalk 99?
She's been a long time listener.
Oh, a long time. Brian spoke to our group in Rutherford County once, and my daughter Kendra was there, and she loves civics. I think a little bit because of y'all and her mom and dad. So
you're obviously raising her well.
And she loves y'all. She gets to hear Dan in the morning. And I told her, I said, she's missing the Four Amigos, but we're going to listen while she's off over Christmas break. So y'all keep up the good. Y'all are wonderful.
All right,
and we love you in a special way, too.
You keep up the good work, too.
All right.
You just cut out.
Yeah, I just cut out a little bit. So thank you, Andrea. God bless you. And I've got questions. So when you guys are ready, just let me know.
Well, just go ahead. We got time for one more.
Hold on. Where'd Barrett go? All right, Barrett, do you have a question? Barrett, my man Barrett is it's my understanding. What do you do around here at Scoreboard?
I am the head floor mopper.
Head floor mopper at Scoreboard. Do you have any question for these knuckleheads on the stage? There they are. You have to mop up after these guys. Any question for them?
Well, number one, let's not spill anything up there. And I guess the question would be, when are you coming back to Scoreboard out at Cedar Creek?
Well, listen, I'm here about once every couple of weeks, as a matter of fact, because I live right down the road.
Yeah.
So Amy and I come here all the time. And
I've visited here several times when I lived in Mount Juliet.
I love it here.
Yeah, it's a good place to come.
Chris, when are you coming back?
Who said I'm leaving?
By the way, we just talked to, that's the owner of the joint, and he said, I don't want you to introduce me as the owner of the joint. I'm just a guy that works here, that makes things run, that makes things happen. That's Barrett, and he is an incredible asset, not only to Mount Juliet, but to Nashville, because obviously he owns Scoreboard out at Opryland. And I love the fact, and I'm going to embarrass him, and he's going to get mad, and he's going to make me leave. But he said, I don't want you to talk about me being owner of this joint. I want you to just talk about the great people that work for me, the spirit of the holidays, and everyone that makes Christmas fabulous. So thank you to Barrett for being the founder of the feast. What a great man.
And if I can, Barrett, I went to the previous establishment when it was another restaurant, and I will just say this, that what they have done in the transition to Scoreboard has been nothing short of amazing, and the people that work here, great service as well. So, Barrett, thank you for having us here, and yes, we hope to come back at some point.
All right, I have a gentleman with a question. Do we have time?
Yep, we got just a
little bit of time.
Two minutes.
Just a minute or so, sir, but what is your name?
Ronnie.
Ronnie, and what is your question for this? We're playing Stump the Chumps. Those are the chumps. What's your question?
Which one's the chumps now?
Well, you look at there.
You look at all three, make your own choice.
There you go.
Yeah, it has to be Madness then.
That's nice.
Is that Madness in the middle, right?
That's Madness in the middle, yes, sir.
Yeah, he's a chump up there.
Oh, wow. Thanks a lot.
What do you think?
Do you have a question, sir?
Not right offhand, I don't.
Okay, well, you just want so your purpose was just to call Dan Mandis a chump?
Listen, declarative statements are also welcome.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
You think he needs it?
All right.
Hey, look, loyal listener to Super Talk 99.7 feels like Dan. You've got strength of ego. You got confidence.
Yeah.
You need a little humbleness.
That's exactly
That's
what I need.
you
A
need.
little
So,
humbleness.
there you go.
Absolutely. Well, it is 7:19 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And listen, we are here for another 40 minutes or so outside of here in Mount Juliet, Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina. So if you want to come out and say hi, take some pictures, and talk a little bit, we'd love to see you here. Again, we're here till 8. We'll return next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 7:23 on SuperTalk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air, but it's not the regular. It's the extended version of the drive because we're not on it at 7 to 8 o'clock. Normally Mark Levin is here. Nobody told Mark we were doing this, right?
He's just in his basement bunker screaming to himself right now.
Yeah, he's heard everywhere. But
a joke.
Somebody said to me, did you ask Mark Levin's permission to take an hour of his show? And I said, no, we don't want to poke that bear. Can you imagine? You big dummies taking an hour of my show?
Can I talk to you for a moment, my friend? Excuse me, Brian Wilson? You take an hour of my show?
One time I did an interview with him, and he said, I know you, Wilson. You don't really like me at all.
You know, Wilson, you're part of the D.C. establishment.
That's right.
I can tell. I'm over in Virginia. You doubt?
But Mark Levin, though, honestly, when he's on, that's his persona, and he's up and he's amped, and that's what you have to do. You sort of, doing talk radio, you got to bring energy to it, and that's what he does. He's bringing energy to the conversation, so it doesn't sound. But when you meet him in real life, it's like, oh, hi, how are you?
I wouldn't say he's meek.
No,
but he's very
much more soft-spoken than you might imagine. And, a sweetheart of a guy. We did, at WMAL when I worked there, we did many events with Mark. And he would come out and he would be a part of it. And people would come. I mean, the rest of us were like, they could care less about us. Mark Levin's in the room, and that kind of stuff. And he was lovely, pleasant to be around. Such a fine guy. And his great passion in life beyond, talking about the events of the day. He's an animal lover, loves animals. And so there's usually, when he would come, there'd be an honorarium for coming out to help us out. And it was almost always just write a check to this charity.
Sprite, Pepsi.
Yeah. And he would,
and my various dogs.
Yeah. And I asked him about the bunker one day. I said, what's the bunker like? Because I had imagined, the way it's described. It's like a cement block table and in a dark room. One light bulb swinging above him, and he says, no, it's a nice room in my basement. He said most of the time my little dog is laying there by my feet for the show. He's just that guy.
That's cool.
But the idea that he's coming from a nondescript building somewhere, that's all for show business because he basically just does it like I do it from his home studio.
Now, Matt apparently has somebody who wants to ask a question.
I do.
Is there a real question here?
No, this is real deal. It's a repeat offender. Tell everybody who you are.
Valerie Marsh.
Valerie is here again, and Valerie and I were talking during the break, and she's with a group. What did you call your group?
Well, we're Vanderbilt Road.
Vanderbilt?
Yeah, we all live on Vanderbilt Road. The ladies are called Vanderbilt Vixens.
All right, so hey,
Vanderbilt
hey,
Vixens.
all
Oh,
of you
my gosh.
Vanderbilt Vixens, hey, y'all speak up. Just go, yay, Vanderbilt Vixens, go, yay! Okay, all right, that's it. Vanderbilt Vixens have had some Vanderbilt vino. So, Valerie, what is your question? To whom is your question directed?
It's directed at Dan.
Okay, Dan Mandis. I hope you're ready.
I'm ready.
Valerie, what's your question?
Dan, last week we had a birthday saga, and you were whining because you were in trouble for not getting a present.
Yes.
I'd like to know what present she got.
Oh, is this for the lovely Amy who is in attendance tonight?
Yes, it is. She's asking what I ended up getting Amy for her birthday.
Yeah.
So, Dan, did it cost you a lot of money at the jewelry store?
I feel terrible. I don't. Is it wrong to say I don't remember what I got Amy for her? Clearly, it was memorable. She's right over there.
Valerie.
She's not listening. Amy.
No, I've got it, Dan.
Go ask Amy what
you.
I got
Valerie,
her for her birthday.
You keep listening. I'm going to go
Can
over
I
here.
tell you?
Hold on. You don't remember. All right, Amy.
Valerie, you're on my
Amy's
poop list.
in the midst of. So we were doing questions. I'm sorry to interrupt the great conversation you guys were having. It is Amy Mandis. Hello, Amy.
Hi.
All right, so I apologize. I promised you I wouldn't do this again. But the question came up, and I'm just going to tell you how this went down. So Valerie was listening to Dan last week, and he was talking about not knowing what to get you for your birthday.
Okay.
And, that kind of goes out over 100,000-watt radio station and internet streaming and SuperTalk TV. And Valerie doesn't know you, doesn't know Dan, but she heard, and she said, I want to know what you got Amy for her birthday. And Dan, you want to?
A hush falls over the crowd.
And
as
hush
we
falls over
wait
the
in
crowd.
This is the
anticipation.
first time all night the
Everyone-
crowd is hushed. And so Amy,
Dan?
I can't for the life of me remember.
He can't remember what he got you for your
what
birthday.
I got you for your birthday.
This is
and-
why you love him. I want you to remember that. This is one of the reasons that you love Dan Manning.
Okay, this could be bad, folks, because I have a feeling I remember what I got her, but I hope it's not what I'm thinking her answer is going to be.
Amy, I'm going to give you one more opportunity to think of something made up that's really good for Mandis, but it's up to you. What did Dan get you for your birthday?
This is not made up. He took me out to a really nice dinner, and then he took me out to a show that I'd actually been saying I wanted to see. He remembered.
That's right. That's what I did.
Yes,
dinner and a
Amy,
show.
I recall that as well because he asked me for a recommendation. So
That's right.
That's right. He said, "Where should I take it?" And I gave him a great recommendation.
Okay, now this is a funny story though, because you told me Kelly's
Kelly's
Jimmy
steakhouse.
Kelly's.
Jimmy
Kelly's. Yeah,
So-
sure. Which is a great steakhouse.
Absolutely.
So
Fabulous.
this is so a peek into my life. So Brian says, "Oh yeah, go to Jimmy Kelly's." I proudly and excitedly make a reservation at Jimmy Kelly's because I've never been to Jimmy Kelly's. I've never taken Amy to Jimmy Kelly's. I'm excited because she specifically told me, take me someplace I've never been.
Uh-huh.
So then I spilled the beans about 2 days before, and I said, all right, so here's where we're going to go. We're going to go to Jimmy Kelly's.
Yay!
I took her there 3 months ago. It's like...
I began to wonder about you, Dan.
She's like, we went there 3 months ago. It's the brick building in downtown or whatever it is. And so I, of course, start shame spiraling. And then we went to a great place in Nashville that I don't remember the name of, but I know that it was amazing. She's yelling at me, where did we go? Where did we go?
I'll get it. Hold on. Let me run back here.
It's a great place.
The Grinch is back. That's bad.
You know,
all right, here we go.
If we mention where we went,
We went to Hampton Social.
Hampton Social.
Oh, that's
right.
nice.
That's a nice
That's a fun place.
That's
yeah.
a great place. So
You know that
yeah.
we are so blessed to live in this market where you can go to so many great restaurants, so many great venues.
Yep.
This is a town that does entertainment right, and I one thing I like living in a small town, but I really like living in a small town that's next to a big town like Nashville, because you go to Nashville and you can find all kinds of places to go. The cuisine is world class. The entertainment is world class. It's just, I'm so glad. It took me a long time to get to Tennessee. I wasn't born here, but I got here as quickly as I possibly could. It is now. We got to take a break. 7:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 35 minutes now past the hour of 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, a bonus hour of The Drive here. Brian Wilson, Chris Ann, Dan Mandis, and Matt Murphy are here at Cedar Creek Marina with a bunch of our friends. Are you having a good time out there, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah. A good crowd here and a good turnout. And the food is fantastic, and we're going to be here for a few more minutes. We're going to come by and say hello. We would love to have you do that. I thought that we would maybe in the last, we got about 25 minutes or so before we'll wrap things up and hand it over to Mark Levin again. And I thought it'd be great to say, okay, we talked about 2023. What were the big stories of the year? We talk about 2024, obviously from a political standpoint. No doubt that's going to be a big story. But what are your predictions for 2024? Dan Mandis, you take the lead on this.
Boy, that's a tough one because. All right, what are the questions? Will Joe Biden be the nominee for the Democrats?
No.
Chris?
I'm torn. I think it's 50-50.
I want it, but no.
Okay.
I'm the same way, Matt, by the way. I think it'd be great to have him if he wants to try to do it.
I would much rather have Trump or whoever it is run against Biden than Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. If it's not Biden, is it because of all of the legal wrangling, dealing with impeachment and all that,
No,
or is it going to be
no.
because of his mental health?
Mental health.
Mental health?
I think they'll finagle their way out of the legal stuff for the next year or so.
Yeah, they can drag it out. And look, they're going to throw Hunter Biden under the bus, and it seems like that's going to happen. They're trying to drag it out as far as they can, but that's going to happen. I think the reason I don't think he's going to be the nominee, and I've said this on my program many times, people who are regular listeners to The Drive know my position on this, but I don't think that the power brokers of the Democrat Party, and believe me, it's still run by a small cadre of people. I mean, the Democrats,
Podesta,
and that ilk, the Obama people are still very much in charge, and I think they're looking at the situation. And they're going, we just can't let him do this. He may be the president of the United States, and they have a certain amount of respect for that. But I think at the grand scheme of things, they realize it's going to be a shellacking, and I think it would be if he's the nominee.
Have you guys, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know if you've seen on stage there, I'm in the audience here, that just adding to this conversation, that Hunter Biden, this news coming down, and if I'm late on this news, I apologize, that he's been indicted on 9 new tax charges.
No, I didn't know that.
Hunter Biden indicted on 9 new tax charges, adding to the gun charges. This is in the special counsel probe. Let me just give you the details.
Yeah.
According to the Associated Press, Hunter Biden has been indicted on 9 new tax charges in California today as a special counsel investigation into the business dealings of the president's son intensifies. The new charges come in addition to the federal firearms charges in Delaware, alleging Hunter Biden broke the law using drug users, having guns in 2018. He's been, let me see, the agreement imploded. So that's all they know. That's all I've got. 9 new charges out of California against Hunter Biden regarding some of the shenanigans going on between himself, his uncle, and his father in 2018.
How about them apples?
How about that? That's big news.
The timing on that is interesting because he's going to be testifying next week, and now he
he's
can
supposed
plead
to
the
be.
fifth and
He's
avoid
supposed
it.
to be. I don't know that he's going to testify.
But he was facing contempt charges if he didn't.
That's right.
And now he can plead the fifth to avoid.
And on that point, I think what will happen is I think he will not show up. I think if he did show up, it's going to be, I plead the fifth, I'm under investigation. I think that's the reason why he won't do it. But he will be in contempt of Congress. But that can drag out for a while. And that's the whole game. Drag it out, drag it out, drag it out. These new charges, I mean, and that's breaking news.
I can't find it anywhere.
Changes everything. Well, I'm having a little trouble with mine.
CBS was reporting it.
Yeah.
Now here's the question. So with these charges, ultimately, the target needs to be Joe Biden. I mean, that's what the ultimate goal is for the Republicans.
Everybody misses about the House Oversight investigation. They're not investigating Hunter Biden.
No.
They're investigating whether or not Hunter Biden's business dealings caused Joe Biden to do a quid pro quo, to provide some kind of service or action on behalf of the clients that were paying big money to his son and his brother. That's what it's about. Now, if you get that, and it's looking increasingly as if they're very close to nailing that one to the wall, because I think they've got, $240,000 worth of checks, and now this recurring payment. That was big news this week. All of that, I think they probably have something more than that they haven't revealed yet, and so I think that thing's going. That investigation is going very well.
So then, here's the question: if not Joe Biden, then is it Gavin Newsom? Is it Kamala Harris? Or is there someone else out there that, a dark horse?
I'll tell you my thinking on this, and I'd love to know if you think I'm right or wrong. Look, it's getting too late to make a switch now. I mean, if you're not on the ballot in Michigan, you're not going to, and that's the way it looks. The deadline is approaching. I think it's like any day now. No time to get that fixed in short order. I think that it becomes a brokered convention. And I think that when they get there, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict exactly what's going to happen, but something will happen that will reveal once again that Joe Biden has lost his mind. And it will be something that you just can't ignore. And I think by the time you get to the convention, I think that they will pull him aside and they say, Joe, I'm sorry. We just can't support you. And it's a brokered convention, and the power brokers and everybody, they get in there into a dark, smoky room, and they come up with a plan. Kamala? No chance.
No way.
No chance. So who is it? Gavin Newsom seems like the likely possibility, but who would have guessed that we'd had Speaker of the House Mike Johnson?
Well, let me ask you this,
I mean,
though.
there are a lot of Democrats out there, and you can't ever predict in that environment who rises up and catches everybody's attention.
When you look at Gavin Newsom, though, and his performance in the debate versus Ron DeSantis, do you think that hurt or maybe helped his chances of becoming the nominee for the Democrats? Because from what I read, and I didn't think he did that great, but I'm predisposed not to like him. Do you think his performance against DeSantis helped him or hurt him?
Who's that? I'm sorry?
Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom. Oh, yeah. During that debate. I'm sorry. I was like about the one we just had. Honestly, I think what I read was that I didn't see it. DeSantis did very well in that, and that Gavin Newsom, said things, but they were platitudes.
Well, and Chris and I talked about this off air and on, that Gavin Newsom does great from a stylistic standpoint. He is really slick, really smooth.
Yep. Optics.
His problem is he's trying to defend the indefensible.
Yeah,
he's defending California. He's defending Democrat policies.
Is a cesspool.
But to answer Dan's question, to answer Dan's question, I don't know that it hurts or helps because I don't know that enough Democrats are paying attention. Anyway, go ahead.
I think that the low IQ voter, though, is going to really love the way Gavin Newsom delivers a lie.
Yep.
And I think that that's going to be a lot, whereas the low IQ voter is feeling the Joe Biden in their wallet.
So is it just me, or is he Gavin Newsom smarmy? Like he's so
I think
he is so used car. No offense to used car salesman, but he's so used car salesman. It's just he's got the smile, the slick back hair, and the smart aleck.
I think Gavin Newsom's first name is Rick. He just spells it with a silent P.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I mean,
do.
no, that's the way he comes off. And I think he even comes off that way. But I think his supporters like that. They're like, oh, he's giving it to him. Oh, he's smoking, Ron DeSantis. Oh, he's fighting back for our policies or whatever.
I think that there was definitely moments in that debate where the young liberal will look at it and go, wow, we got DeSantis there.
Right.
They're banning books.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is to your point, Matt, which is he's trying to defend the indefensible, but the other thing is that there's so many bullets that DeSantis has or any conservative has when you look at what the Democrats and Joe Biden have been doing. He came out and he literally said, I'm not running for president. I'm here to defend Biden, Harris, and their policies. You can't defend what's happening.
Well, I think all of that changes if Joe Biden declares that something happens to him medically and he can no longer run. I believe that has to happen within a couple of months. I understand Brian's analysis, and I don't disagree that could very well happen. But I think if it happens at the convention, I think it's too late. I think that enough Democrats are believers in grass. I think you push away potential voters. But who knows?
I think it's the power structure of the Democrat Party because of the superdelegate thing that they
Maybe
have
so,
and
yeah.
all that. I mean, the people who are in power, they're in a back room negotiating these things. And don't underestimate the power of the superdelegate and the people who are the real movers and shakers and the power behind the Democrats are not very democratic in many ways. And so
Agreed.
It is still there's a facade that makes it look like the people are making the choice, but really it's happening in back rooms. And I just think that something. I mean, what I can't tell you is how it's going to unfold exactly, but I do know this: they hate Donald Trump with a passion that burns deep within their souls. They don't want any chance. If it looks like Donald Trump is strong. And their patient can't find, and their patient, their president can't find his way off the stage, or he takes another face plant at something, or stumbles and falls again, or does something that's so egregiously obvious that he's lost his mind. They're just not going to stand by and say, "Go right ahead, Joe. Give it your best shot."
Now, let me ask this: given what we've all seen in the past, at that point now, 4 years. The border, the economy, the vaccine mandates, all of the things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did, is all that forgotten if a new candidate comes in like a Gavin Newsom?
Well, it gives them the opportunity to not run on their record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also think we can't underestimate the fact that there were 14-year-olds that can now vote in this election that don't really remember any of that. 14 and 15-year-olds are coming up of age to vote now, and they're not going to remember all of that.
Yeah.
I would suggest that Gavin Newsom pivots, and in a 2-month time frame, he would say, yes, there are problems, yes, there are issues, here's how I would solve. He would pivot and become not an incumbent. He would be a new guy with new ideas. I am the change that you're looking for if he would become the candidate anytime in 2024. I mean, but you know what? The best hope for the United States of America is that Joe Biden manages to last and manages to convince the power structure that he can make this. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it.
I welcome that. I hope that happens. I don't think it will. Let me ask you another question. I saw a report today talking about Biden's low approval ratings, and there was in that survey, they broke it down. That in this survey, it was 30% of the people they surveyed were Republicans, 29% said they were Democrats, 41% said they were independents. Now, take a look at that. With independents being the largest voting group in America today, you can't win an election without independents. What do you think about the No Labels Party and how this will have an impact on this coming election season?
For the No Labels Party, I think that there's some part of America that will really embrace that. But I think the majority of Americans, even independents, I don't know if they're buying into the no labels thing. I just don't. I think that even the independents understand that you need to pick a side, Republican or Democrat, conservative or progressive. I think for me, unless they can come up with a really good candidate and not Joe Manchin and not Mitt Romney, I think that no labels might be a factor, but I don't know how big of a factor it's going to be.
I think the whole idea of that movement is to invigorate and empower the middle.
Yeah.
In a way that it's never been done. Third-party candidacies have not done well, but look, I think there's a great number of people in this country who look at the situation and go, a pox on Democrats, a pox on Republicans. I'm tired. I want something different. I'm fed up with all of it. And I think that sentiment in America today is much stronger than you might imagine.
But then who does it help? It depends on the candidate who is...
who they put up.
Yeah.
I believe the country is ripe for what they were ripe for when Ross Perot became a factor in, 92, I guess, to 96. I think a no labels party could matter. Depending on I think Joe Manchin could matter. I think Liz Cheney could matter.
We got to take a break.
I believe it.
Well, listen, it's 15 minutes now past the hour. This is Brian Wilson and the team coming to you live from Mount Juliet. It's 55 minutes now past the hour of 7 o'clock. It's a bonus hour of The Drive, but we're live from Cedar Creek Marina in beautiful Mount Juliet, beautiful downtown. No, we're in suburban Mount Juliet.
How long were you in Mount Juliet?
I was in Mount Juliet for about 4 or 5 years.
You got popped by the tornado, right?
Yeah, I got hit by the tornado and was in a rent house over there and barely got out. It's a long story. I won't bore you with it now. But, I got hit hard. If I had stayed in the house, I was already headed to work when the tornado hit. If I'd have stayed in the house, the bedroom I would have been in when I got back to the house didn't have any walls in it. So I
was on the phone with Brian Wilson when his house was being destroyed by a tornado, wasn't
That's
I?
right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was in the car by that time, but the house next to mine was obliterated, gone. It just doesn't. In fact, the reason I didn't have any walls to that house was because the car that was sitting in their driveway slammed into the side of my bedroom wall.
Brian has great memories of Mount Juliet.
Yeah, but no, it was.
I don't mean to end the show on something of a more somber note, but that has to make you reflect.
Oh, it does.
You know what I'm saying?
It does, and I'm immensely blessed by all that.
Well, can I just say one quick thing? Is thank you to Scoreboard.
Yes,
thank
absolutely.
you to Cedar Creek Marina, and thank you to everyone that's behind the scenes, including Kirby, including Rich, and the rest of the production staff for making this possible, because they don't get enough accolades, and they deserve it. They're making this happen, and we appreciate it.
Well, and can I say also, of course, and it goes without saying, thank you to the people that came out.
Yes, thank you.
Applaud yourselves. Applaud yourselves, people.
Every time, and everybody on this stage knows this, every time we do these events, I worry for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Dan said nobody's showing up. He said nobody's showing up, man.
And every time people show up, so thank you.
Yeah, we want you to know that we only exist because you find merit in what we do and favor with what we do, and we never, ever, ever forget the fact that we're only here because people want this kind of information, want this kind of viewpoint, and we're nothing without you, and we always appreciate our audience like you cannot believe. They've been so good to us over the years, and you're right. Every time we show up somewhere, there's a big turnout. And, it tells you a little bit about the power of this radio station.
In the spirit of what we're doing tonight, and in the spirit of the fact that Dan Mandis is not here tomorrow, it feels like a Friday anyway. I say we all take the day off tomorrow, guys. What do you think?
How about no?
I already am.
Oh, Brian's gone
too.
Yeah,
you two are holding down the fort tomorrow.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't know doesn't hurt them.
Well, I'm not coming into the office.
You're not. You're on remote.
Yeah.
I'm the only schlub in the office.
I'll be at Columbia Sportswear in Brentwood. We're collecting coats for the kids of Metro
That's
Nashville.
a lovely idea.
Which is another kudos to our listeners. Our listeners have been showing out for us all month long. From Nashville Rescue Mission to Toy Field to the coat drive tomorrow, we have the best listeners in the entire state, possibly the country, and we couldn't do it without you guys.
It's a great group of people who follow this radio station, and we're honored, and quite frankly, I'm just blown away every time we get a chance to hang out with these folks. Listen, thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing. We're going to sign off now from Mount Juliet. Coming up next after the news, you'll hear the dulcet tones of Mark Levin.
You big dummy.
Thank you, my friend.
Have a good night, everybody.